let's go ahead and call the meeting of the April 4th, or yes, April 4th meeting of the Monroe County Election Board to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Have folks had a chance to review the minutes that were prepared?
I have had a chance to review the minutes, made suggestions with respect to corrections, and unless there are others, I will make a motion to accept the minutes from the March 2024 meeting.
I have no changes, and I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I don't have any corrections either, so let's go ahead and call the vote for the approval of the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Sorry,
Aye.
you would have to do a roll call vote since Mr. Fernandez is virtual.
Thank you. Let's do the roll call vote. Thanks, Molly.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Bankhart,
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes. Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
great.
may I recommend,
Yes.
I apologize, may I recommend moving the CFA business to the next item of business? We have at least one candidate who is represented by an attorney who has to be in court at 1:30.
There's no objection. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. And I believe that attorney is representing Marty Stevens. So I will turn it over to you from there for the attorney to present.
Thank you, members of the election board. I'm Eric Cook. I filed an appearance for the Martin Stevens Committee. The committee appears today by counsel and in person by its treasurer, also the candidate, Mr. Stevens. The committee acknowledges that its filing was delinquent and the treasurer accepts full responsibility. We'd ask the board to consider the following mitigating circumstances. Each line of the report was a zero. No contributions, no expenditures for that period. Second, this is the first violation for the committee, and Mr. Stevens has been in public service for 14 years. Third, Mr. Stevens was experiencing health issues at the time from which he is still recovering. And fourth, that the committee and its treasurer have accepted full responsibility for the delinquent filing. In light of the mitigating circumstances, we would ask that you would consider waiving the penalties pursuant to IC 3-9-4-19. Be happy to answer any questions. We thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I appreciate that, Mr. Stevens, issues raised. Are there any other candidates in the room, Nicole or?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and give those folks an opportunity as well.
Okay.
I believe that Kylie wanted to discuss.
Say with the spreadsheet that I had sent to the three of you, I clumped them together as first offense, second offense, and third offense. That way you can do them as a group, and if they are wanting to come up and speak on why they were late, then they can do so. Main reason for them to be here at the hearing is to inform them of any changes or any fines that are being submitted to them.
So since we've already started on the second offense group, we
Just
should.
go ahead and take care of second offense, and then we'll take care of first
Okay,
and third.
does that work for you?
That makes perfect sense.
My understanding was that this is Mr. Stevens' first offense. Could there have been an error in where he was placed on the list?
There could be an error that was within the office, but we had pulled all files from past, and if there was any of the lates, then we had pulled those as well. But since there has been some question about the policy on our fine policy, we have, I don't know if you guys have decided to waiver those or if you decided to keep all late filings from the past.
It was our understanding that that was the Stevens Committee's first offense, and if we're mistaken about that, then we'll stand corrected, but I just wanted, that was our understanding.
Are there any other folks who are in that, well, we'll just presume for the minutes that we're in the second offense bucket here. Are there other candidates in that grouping of filings?
So the people that we have as second offense are candidate Lovejoy, candidate Pirani, candidate Thompson, and candidate Van Devender. I received a text message from candidate Thompson regarding his fine, and he is also listed as second offense. Are you wanting candidate Pirani, candidate Lovejoy, or candidate Van Devender to come up if they are present?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Good afternoon, everyone. I first wanted to just raise that according to the policy that was adopted, this should be my first late offense, because the first, which was 2 hours late, the first time was prior to the new policy, and there isn't anything in the policy that states that it's a retroactive. So it is of my opinion that this is my first offense, which should have just been a notice of that lateness. We take full responsibility and acknowledgement that the second one was late. It was just an oversight on our part. I'm happy to go into further detail if I need to.
Thank you.
Under the current policy, the first and second offenses are no penalties. Is that correct?
The second could carry a
The second
penalty,
could carry a penalty.
Oh, I was just looking at the,
unless it's been
Right,
amended since I have
guidelines.
it.
I believe the second would be it could, if it was within a certain amount of time or the
Okay.
decision of the election board. So since
Alright.
it was just by a
Okay.
couple of hours, I would assume the election board would just pass it off as a warning.
all right, okay, very good.
Anything else?
I have no questions.
Are there any other candidates or former candidates
We
that'd
have,
like to?
we have another candidate approaching, and I'll read the statement that I got via text.
Hi, I'm Mary Van Devender, and I want to apologize for being late. I did not get the packet when I first came in to sign up to being a trustee or to run for trustee. So I'm new at this and learning as I go. I did get an email saying that I was late, although all of mine is 0. And I was told last year that if you put final, it's your final, you don't have to do it again. So I'm not sure if I didn't check it off, or if I checked something else off, or because I did it in the office and had her look at it. So I was shocked that I even got an email telling me I was late, because I thought I took care of it.
Do you believe you checked the final?
I thought I did. Yeah, I thought I did.
So I actually had my staff go through and verify all of these to ensure that they should have been asked to come to a hearing and that they should have filed. And as of yesterday, when they rechecked all of them, everybody on this list are not finals. So maybe there was a possibility that it didn't get checked, or we can go back through and ensure that there was a check for it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
We have another candidate approaching. I know that you can't see that part on the screen.
You can just see the board.
Understood.
Hi, I'm Marcia Lovejoy. I ran for school board in 2020. I was late in submitting this. I'd become accustomed to the annual emails from Karen Wheeler. As soon as I realized that I was late, I submitted the paperwork. My line items, I believe I have $33.50 in my account. I am looking forward to finalizing that and suspending the financial committee. I have no excuse other than I simply forgot.
Okay.
The last one is the text message. Would the board like to hear that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I apologize to the board for filing my form late. As many know, I moved very quickly from Bloomington in the first part of 2023, and as I was leaving, I thought I had submitted the paperwork to close my committee. Unfortunately, I did not do this as I previously thought. Upon receiving word of my mistake, I immediately filed the following workday to close out my committee correctly this time. Once again, I apologize for this mistake, and I hope the board can take mercy on me given the circumstances and the fact that I am no longer a Monroe County resident. Thank you for all you do.
And I'm sorry, Nicole, who is that from?
That is for candidate Thompson.
Dominic Thompson. Okay, thank you. So if there are no other speakers at this time, would one of my colleagues like to make a motion in regard to either in whole, the first and second offenses, or if you want to separate any out, please do so.
Yes, I'm a candidate as well, but I didn't hear my name called, so I was waiting.
Is this for your second offense?
I believe so.
I would say if you want to do the first offenses as a block and then the second offenses as a block, that would be fine. Unless you're intending to move that some of these second offense cases actually get fined. I mean, I don't pick up a lot of that sentiment.
What did you say your name was?
Wyatt.
Aaron Wyatt.
Okay, you're listed as a third offense. So,
Okay, so then are we dealing with the block of second offense candidates?
Yes.
Okay, I will make a motion that we issue warnings for the second offense as a block. I am not singling anyone out for a harsher penalty than the warning.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue warnings for all of the candidates, former candidates that received a second offense notification. Unless there's any debate, can we call the roll on that?
Clerk Brown?
Yes.
Board Member Bankhart?
Yes.
Board Member Fernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, since there's just one person on the third offense and it's the person who is here to speak, would you like
Yes, let's do that. Yeah, if Aaron Wyatt wants to address the board, let's entertain those comments now.
Ms. White?
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I really accept responsibility for my error. As far as the reasoning behind, and honestly, I wasn't aware this was my third offense. I was late a year ago because my son had just gotten out of the ICU at Riley, and then this year the deadline to file was several days after my father had just died, and in the weeks leading up to that, submitting an annual report was kind of at the back of my mind because I had no donations or expenditures for the 2023 year. I am a school board member, and so throughout this whole process, this is something that I've been doing largely on my own. I don't have a committee. I mean, my husband is my treasurer, but I never also received a packet to kind of tell me about all these things, and so I can only say that I'm very sorry, but again, I've been doing all of this on my own. I don't, as a nonpartisan candidate, you don't really get a lot of support from a party. You don't receive a lot of donations as well. So, and you don't receive a salary, so I can only hope that my fine will be manageable, but again, I am truly sorry. You know, I went into this to be a public servant, so I hope it ends up not being something that is, very harmful to my financial state. So anyway, thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
For the record, would it be helpful for either Kylie or Molly to state what the actual policy is as it relates to third offenses?
Did you say third offenses?
Yes.
Okay.
So in reviewing the February 2nd, 2023 minutes from the election board, or the agenda from the election board, the proposed campaign finance policy indicates that for a third offense, 100% of the statutory maximum, which is $50 a day until current, or a max of $1,000 would be the fine assessed. This proposed policy was adopted unanimously in February of 2023.
So in this instance, that's a fairly significant fine.
I don't think so. It looks like she was, oh, I'm sorry, I saw 17, I didn't see the months, I understand. It would be substantial. We are talking about extreme and unfortunate circumstances. I am not inclined to impose the maximum. That's my portion of the discussion.
I think with my position would be that because there is some confusion with regard to notification, who has responsibility to make that notification, if those notifications have been received, there's been no real tracking on that I believe we should not have a penalty for this person as well. Okay. And I think we're in the process of trying to get the new staff up and going, which it should take care of itself eventually, but we need time to work it out.
And it will, the only thing I would say, if we're just going to talk about notifications, is that it is a courtesy. It has never been mandated. My office,
I understand.
Has
What about the
candidate packets. We don't have to even make up the candidate packets, and we put those list of important dates on the packets for the candidate. But ultimately, whether you receive a packet or not, whether you receive notification or not, ultimately it is the candidate's responsibility to know the dates. What I am saying in this instance, and I am one of the people who participated in the unanimous vote. This is an extreme and unfortunate circumstance, and I am willing to look at not imposing the maximum, taking into account, the policy was created by humans. It was meant to not punish people for running for office. We wanted to encourage people to run for office, but also have candidates take seriously the fact that things are due. They're due at a certain time, and it's their responsibility. In this instance, this was never the spirit of what we were attempting to do.
Correct. I agree. And having been a candidate in the past and a new one, and only having run once, it was very important that I was aware of those filing dates. And to my knowledge, all of those were followed through with. So I agree with you. It ultimately is the candidate's responsibility. In this case, though, one of the problems has been, though, that some of it has been done in the past, so people have relied on getting notifications. So we have to make it clear. Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. And until people know, I think it's important to entertain the fact that Ms. Wyatt had some issues for why she did not or was not able to file in a timely manner. And I agree with you. I think these circumstances definitely warrant that I would say no penalty at all.
I would second that.
All right.
Is that a form of a motion?
Yes,
Judith?
sir. That's my
Okay, and
motion.
Nicole, that second?
Yes, it is a second.
Okay, if there's no objections, let's read the roll on this one. The motion is to waive the fine for candidate Wyatt.
Clerk Brown,
Yes.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes?
Board Member Bighart.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the first offense tranche, of which we have 5 candidates. Are any of the candidates here that would like to address the board?
At least 4.
Okay.
Is candidate Conyer in the room?
Good afternoon, board. This is my first offense, and I was a first-time candidate. It's completely my fault. I actually put it in my calendar as January 17th of 2025.
Oh, my God.
So I just miskeyed it, and as soon as I realized the error, I ran down to the office and filed it immediately. So again, I do apologize, and this will never happen again. I can assure you that.
Thank you.
Candidate O'Neill?
An email that I had forwarded to the election board. I did not print it for today.
Would you like me, Mr. Chair, to read this into the minutes?
Sure. Yes, please.
Dear election board members, my name is Brian O'Neill. I was the campaign chair of record for O'Neill for Better Education. Daniel O'Neill was the candidate running for a seat on the MCCSC school board in the 2022 election. When we received the notice that the 2023 campaign finance report had not been filed, we responded immediately to get into compliance. We had been under the impression that the committee had been dissolved in 2022. Our treasurer had checked the wrong box indicating an annual rather than final report. The committee's campaign checking account was closed shortly after the November election in 2022, and no funds were received or expenditures incurred in 2023. In short, we made a clerical error in 2022 and were not aware of it until we received the notice shortly after the deadline in 2024. We hope you will take this into consideration at the hearing on April 4th. We are hoping it will not be necessary for us to attend the hearing. However, I would be happy to represent the committee in person should you require it. Thank you for your time and attention, Brian O'Neill.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome, sir. Is candidate Sturbaum in the room?
I also thought that we didn't have to file this again if we hit final, but it was my fault. I didn't submit what I should have submitted, and I'm sorry.
Just as a point of clarification, again, the staff checked yesterday?
Yes,
and
they
so-
went through and checked all the files to ensure that everybody had not marked that it was a final, to ensure that we had selected the correct candidates to be in attendance today.
Thank you. Is candidate Swain in the room?
Hello, members of the election board. I am not a first-time candidate, so I know that the deadlines are what they need to be, and that the notification is merely a courtesy and not to rely on it. I had no change from my annual report in 2022, in 2023, sorry, no expenditures or donations. I did keep the campaign open. It was not final. I kept the campaign open in the hopes of running for re-election in 2 years. We just got a little busy at work. We're shorthanded and had to hire new people. So in the midst of all of that, things on the personal side of my life got put on a back burner, and I missed the deadline by 2 or 3 days. So I do apologize for that and plan for that not to happen again.
Thank you.
Candidate Turner.
Hello, Paul Turner. First-time candidate, first-time offense. I take full accountability, responsibility for the late filing. It sounds like emails had gone out as reminders, and that was probably to an email account that I abandoned after the election, so I wasn't checking it. And I'll blame it on COVID brain. The 17th, I actually went to the walk-in clinic on Woodcrest and tested positive for COVID, so I quarantined for 5 days after that, and it just completely slipped my mind until I got the certified letter in the mail saying I'd missed it, so I was a little over a month late filing. So I apologize for that. And I would like to just clarify, because I looked at my copy, because I checked annual and final on my box, so I just wanted to make sure that I closed out my account and it's no longer active, so I don't have to do this again.
If it was marked on this one or this filing, then yes. And
Okay.
I will make sure, and I can send you an email to
Okay.
clarify that it
Yeah.
was marked.
Okay.
But anyone that was on here had marked as a final before
Gotcha.
this
Yep.
filing period.
Yep, that is correct, yep.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to make sure my last one was, because I checked 2 boxes, so I just wanted to make sure I got the right one, so. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Those
And
are-
just for the record, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, those are all of the candidates under the first offense.
Yeah, so we have a handful of candidates here, first time at FATS. We've received all of their filings, even though, they were a couple weeks late in some cases. For the record, I believe our policy is first time offenses are given a warning. So I would certainly entertain a motion to do just that for these candidates.
I will make a motion for the 5 candidates under the first offense section to receive a warning with respect to late CFA 4 filings.
I second.
Okay, can we read the roll, please?
Board Member Bankhart,
Yes.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes.
Okay, well, that wraps up this old business.
May I say one more thing about that, just as a point of order?
Sure.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that happened, and by the way, we do have someone wanting to speak about that, I think before we close this section. We had a candidate who is not present today that has been mentioned in previous meetings, and when my election supervisor advised him that we did not have the form, he screamed at her. And so whatever we decide about policy today, and I'm happy to have the discussion, we are just trying to comply with campaign finance rules. There should never be an instance where a candidate even thinks about screaming at someone who is just doing their job and trying to get the information that we need, especially if you want to be in service to the voters and the citizens of Monroe County. I am very disappointed that that person did that. It's simply unnecessary. And so I just wanted to make that point before we completely close out, and before I let you know that there's someone in the room waiting to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, my concern is that we are 30 minutes into a meeting talking about a policy like this that, it was my understanding that I think Chairman Henry wanted to address the board. I guess we can do it at this time since we are still in this section of the agenda, but then I'd really like to move on to the rest of the agenda.
Now, that's who's waiting to speak, sir.
Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is David Henry. I'm a resident of Van Buren Township, and today I appear in my capacity as chair of the Monroe County Democratic Party. I'm following up on an email exchange to the board that was on Sunday of this past weekend for the record, and to help hopefully work on some policy changes that may make the CFA reporting process a little easier, not only for the party's candidates, but any candidate that's seeking office in our community. Today I ask respectfully that the board consider some changes to our adopted policy on fines for late CFAs that was adopted in February of last year. This was a policy that, of course, was adopted during my term on the election board, and so I understand a bit of the spirit in the letter of what we were trying to do and helping to manage the process here. But after a year, it may make sense to revisit some of how this has worked out and how our notifications are working. Secondly, I want to honor the fact that I know this is an administrative burden for the election operations and the board, and that and as we've heard here mentioned today, a courtesy extended to candidates. It's by no means an obligation under code to let our candidates know when they are late for things. However, I think we've heard several cases of inconsistency or misunderstandings about when things are due. I obviously want to say too that I understand that with staff turnover over the past year that some of these policies might not have been taught or replicated or really burdensome. At the end of the day, there's a lot to do in our election work in the county. But after a meeting of our executive board over the past week, which authorizes this engagement today, the Monroe County Democratic Party respectfully requests the following changes to the policy adopted in February of 23. First, that the board should remove the two political parties as the responsible element or party to duly notice our candidates of the infraction. I know the spirit of this was to divest to the party chairs to let their candidates know that they may have been late in filing. However, in my own experience, as well as speaking with my counterparts in the Republican Party, Vice Chairman Ellis, we're not getting the notices consistently from anywhere about potential late infractions. I think that's because the policy never really outlined how that was going to happen. If it was the board members letting us know, or if there was a notification sent from election operations to us, but short of watching cats or reading in the local media who was late, I wouldn't have known to even how to pass that on, and I know that's the case for my counterparts on the other side. Secondly, I wanted to raise up that for nonpartisan candidates, there's no intermediary to let them know. It's really up to the board and its operations. We have two school board members here, or three, that have presented to, that have presented, 5, thank you. Can I get 6? On that there's no way for nonpartisan candidates to get that same information flow that the two parties have enjoyed under the current policy that may need to be looked at. Secondly is to make sure that if the board continues to notice or send any letters or any notification, that at minimum a point of contact information, email, phone number, or something can be released in a timely manner to the candidates. I think there's been some cases where people got a notice quickly and maybe a little later, or didn't get a contact or phone number to call in to find out a little detail about what the infraction was. And I think there's been some cases of that in some of the letter writing. And then lastly, and we've heard it today, that I hope the board would consider that if there is a reset in the policy where people are coming and saying, I'm not sure if this is my third or second or first infraction, that there's if there is a master documentation about that be made available, so a candidate could call in and find out where they are in their counts of potential infractions, and if in fact all infractions historically were reset with the adoption of the new policy in February of 23. I do have one more. It is unclear to me if these infractions are business days or actuals, and I know state code is more clear on that, but I don't think we have anything written locally about the daily infraction count that would help us really understand how many days in a candidate may be if in fact they're facing the maximum fine of $50 a day. Now I raise all this not as a criticism. I mean, we are trying to do the spirit in the letter here. I really appreciate the effort of our local board to notice where other counties don't even engage in this at all. But if it can be written into policy that's more clear to the parties, the political parties, as well as our future candidates, I think we would be in a better place to help avoid a meeting at this point that's 40 minutes in on potential infractions. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you very much, Chairman Henry. Is there anyone else of the public that wants to address this issue? If not, I'd like to make a suggestion because
we do have someone who wants to address this issue.
Okay, great. My apologies.
It's Cheryl Langdon. I was here last month. I had brought up the subject about the grant that State Secretary Morales had offered up last summer when I was at the conference. That grant was and did speak on the very thing that we're talking about. Monroe County did not get any of that money. And that's because no one listened to me and no one cared about what I had to say. So we lost out on that money. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public or online that wants to address this issue regarding campaign finance filings? If not, I'd like to make a suggestion because honestly, I've got a lot to say on this. But I think that I would suggest to my colleagues that we hold back discussions on the current state of these policies and put it on a future agenda to clarify how we're going to handle this from an administrative perspective. I mean, I don't want to diminish the importance of these kinds of filings. I mean, they're super important in terms of our system to have transparency, to be compliant with state law and local rules. But we also need to think about administrative efficiencies and the role we play in providing a service as well. But I think there are a number of issues that require discussion and maybe clarification. But since we are at 1:45, I'd appreciate it if my colleagues would agree that we move to the regular agenda, and then we will come back to this issue in a future meeting.
I can agree to that.
I can also, and also I wanted to just note that when I received Mr. Henry's email, I had an opportunity to speak with Taylor Bryant, the Monroe County Republican Party chair, and she also would ask that that take place. So I agree.
Super. Thank you so much. So with that said, let's get back to the actual agenda. We are at the clerk's update then. Cool.
Thank you. For the first update, this is with regard to the deadline for voter registration. Many of you, most of you may know that Monroe County government has, I think quite wisely, elected to have the Eclipse Day be a Monroe County government holiday. That would have been the final day to register if you wanted to vote in the presidential election. That deadline has been extended by the state until noon on the day after the eclipse, which is this coming Tuesday. The deadline is noon. That does not interfere with early voting. Early voting will still take place on Tuesday, the 10th. So those are the two things. The deadline for registration, early voting start date is this coming Tuesday. We also received a letter from the city, an email from the city with respect to candidate sign placement. I noticed the signs as I drive to work. I arrive at work between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. But the city reached out to our office with respect to violations. And the complaints include the signs being placed in the tree plot and being less than 10 feet from the edge of the road. The city can take action. I want to make very clear that neither the clerk's office nor the election board or anybody who has anything to do with elections under the clerk's umbrella is responsible for policing the signs. So there are violations and the signs can be removed. And we just want to make sure that that is in the record. If you have any questions, please contact the legal department for the city of Bloomington with respect to signage. And then finally, with respect to Election Day workers. We are still recruiting people. We would be excited for you to come out. Earlier today, I went and swore in people who will help us to get through early voting, but we are also working with our recruiters to simultaneously get those people for Election Day. It is based upon the party with which you most closely identify. So if you will call our office, 349-2612, they would be happy to connect you to the appropriate recruiter based upon your political affiliation. And with that, I have no further clerk updates, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Then we will move on to the Election Central update.
All right, so for Election Central update, I just want to also touch base on the deadline for registration, because if you want to register online, the deadline is still April 8th, but at 11:59 p.m. for any online registration. Next on my list, I have ballot review. When we had our ballot review, we had a very good turnout. We had 13 individuals that came in and reviewed ballots. We had a couple of small issues, but got them resolved in a quickly manner and are now up to date as of our LEB test, which took place last week. Yeah, our LEB test took place last week, and our test came out successful, and we had great attendance for that one as well. And we did have a letter that we received from League of Women Voters as they had attended it and also stated that they were there and noticed that it had came off as good. Status of election readiness, we are prepared and ready for early voting. That starts next week. So we are extremely excited to get started with that. Hope the eclipse doesn't affect getting into town too much, but you know. And then Election Day parking at Napa and for our early voters was approved for them to be able to park closer to the building, and they will be directly behind the building, which is very, very good for all of our workers because they are older, and it's been struggles in the years where they've had to park in a parking garage where we can't guarantee that the elevator is going to work. And then Election Day pay has been brought up a few times since the raise for absentee has been accepted. We have some members that have worked in the past that have decided that if there is not a change on the pay, they will not be working this election. So we are currently having them reach out to commissioners to voice their concerns, and that way we can get working on this and hope to get it fixed as soon as possible. And that's it on my end. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Kylie. I really appreciate what all of the team members are doing in prep. I know that this is our last meeting before people actually get voting. So a lot of gratitude, I think, is worth sharing to all the folks who are doing so much to get us ready for this election. Is there any public comment in regard to the Election Central update? Okay, not seeing any, so let's move on to item 5, which is the Vote Center Study Committee update. Do we have anyone in the audience prepared to address the update?
We do.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon to the board and everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to provide the update again from the Vote Center Study Committee. We've had a couple additional meetings and some further movement on our analysis since I last reported back to you all. And as you'll see in the forthcoming minutes from our last study committee, we've set out a calendar of how we'll be utilizing the time for the future several scheduled meetings. And I wanted to bring a couple points to your attention in particular because these committee meetings are open to the public, and we're looking forward to some more engagement in those meetings for anyone who would like to ask questions or provide input. For our April 10th scheduled meeting, we are planning to start the focus on Indiana University students' interests and concerns, and in particular, IU political and civic engagement. The PACE office leadership has been invited to that meeting, and the topic of access to Indiana University students who are eligible voters has come up throughout our committee's discussion thus far in really early stages, and certainly more of questions than answers. And so the April 10th meeting will be an important opportunity to learn more about student voters' access concerns, and also hope to start the conversation about the university's willingness or possible actions that could also be relevant for consideration because of people wanting to be able to feasibly vote on campus. The April 24th study committee meeting that we have coming up a little bit later will focus on equipment with presentations by Hart, InterCivic, and BNL IT Services. We have several other dates and topics planned as well. Whenever convenient, we can provide that information to you. And two other quick things, and happy to hear any questions you have. Our committee is still waiting for precinct level data about turnout in particular, and a few other data points for the 2020, 2022, and 2023 elections, so that we can take it into consideration when doing our analysis and making our recommendations. Thank you, Kylie, for your very persistent efforts to get that information, and we're still waiting to have the information in a form we can understand, because we're not election experts like Kylie. And so we're hoping that we can visualize the data on a precinct level, and that we can do that in the near future at one of our committee meetings. And the other thing on a related note that we wanted to relay is that there are times in our committee's discussion when we realize there is more information we need from the county about the current election system, so that we are not making presumptions or having an incorrect understanding of the realities of the election administration. For example, learning about how it's paper ballots only in Monroe County, and that would impact the rollout of a vote center model because of the need for printers. That's just one example. And so thank you, Kylie, for continuing to provide us information about the topics that come up that we need to get better educated on as our study committee. Any questions?
I don't have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing, as well as the study committee. I look forward to continuing to see how that report evolves and where it leads us in terms of the actions we'll take to modify our local election processes. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we are now to new business, and I think we have a few things that we're going to need to vote on, and I believe most of these action items are being, brought forward by our council. So I will turn it over to Molly to take us through the first resolution to ratify approval of poll locations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first resolution is to ratify the approval of poll locations. At the March 7th election board meeting, a list of polling sites were presented to the election board. Included in the list were poll sites that consolidate the polling places for adjoining precincts. The polling list provided on the 7th meeting was unanimously approved, so this resolution just will ratify the decision that the election board made on March 7th.
Thank you. Do Judith or Nicole have any comments or questions for Molly?
I do not.
I do not.
Is there any public comment, either in the room or online? Okay, seeing none, I assume I'm not seeing any in the room either. I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution ratifying approval of poll locations.
Are you asking me? I will make a motion to approve the resolution of the approval of the polling locations.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could we please read the roll?
Board Member Fernandez?
Yes.
Board Member Bankart?
Yes.
Clerk Brown?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And that's on the agenda is appointment of absentee board members.
So the next agenda item is to address a few discrepancies between the list of absentee board member nominations or appointees provided to the election board at the March 7th meeting. At the March 7th meeting, the election board passed a resolution appointing absentee board members based on a list provided by both party chairs. In comparing the list to the documents provided to employee services, there were approximately 9 people who were indicated to payroll that they were going to be absentee workers or absentee board members, but they are not on the Democratic nomination list. And then there are a few people who are on the nomination list who employee services do not have paperwork on. So I guess my recommendation would be to check with the party chair to see if the 9 people not included on the absentee board list should be included on the list, and then appoint them. And I think I would recommend that the board could appoint today, absent any objection from the party chair, by April 11th.
I would say on those, there might have been a few that were not confirmed that they were going to work yet, so therefore we didn't have paperwork from them yet until after that meeting. So in this case, we just need to add them.
So since the party chair is here,
Yep.
does the board have any objection to confirming the outstanding absentee workers for the Democratic Party that have submitted paperwork to our Office for Employee Services?
And while you're looking over that list, are the folks who have not been nominated that are omitted from the list, are they only the Democratic appointees?
Can you restate the question, sir?
Yes. In terms of some of these omissions, are they only from appointees of the Democratic Party?
Do we also have Republican people who?
There are no omissions from the Republican Party list. It's just individuals on the Democratic Party list, and I believe Mr. Henry can address them.
Great, thank you, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I am happy to resubmit our nomination list for absentee workers for the primary election as Ms. Turner King has recommended. I'm happy to initial that and present that for your consideration at this time. Does this require a vote, or can I just simply turn this into the board as amended?
I am happy to take the amended list without a vote.
I think there has to be a vote on the appointment, so you would read the names in, and then the election board would vote to appoint
The
them.
chair of the Democratic Party would like to appoint as nominations for absentee workers the following names: Jenny Garlitz, Dana Price, Mandy Yates, Laura Baugh, Rita Heckland, Carolyn Bailey, Henry Davis, Genevieve Fullwider, and David Ebeling. And I will initial and date those for your consideration today.
So this, Mr. Chair, this is the first time I believe we accepted the appointments without reading the names. My concern is not that you can't find out who worked elections, but I'm particularly concerned about reading people's names and then having on the back end, if someone does not like the outcome of the election, that you then now have these people's names read into the minutes where you can go and actively seek them out. I thought we had talked to the Indiana Election Division with respect to not having to read the names out, and that we were advised that that was not something that we had to do.
Well, they're already read in. I mean, I'm happy
Well,
to send you this along.
yeah, I wasn't asking you to read them. You were directed to read them. I'm just saying, was that not our understanding from the Indiana Election Division, that that was not?
It was our understanding from the IED that that was their idea on it. That's why last time we had just submitted the list and then we didn't state any of the names. But
Were they attached to something that was put on,
Document from
that would have
each-
been put online? Anyway, okay. So they still would be able to access names from our website. Okay.
I'm just one of three.
I appreciate your concern, Nicole, but for better or worse, we've read them. So at this point, though, can we take action on the appointment of the absentee board members now that we have a complete list?
Are you asking for a motion?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I will make a motion to accept the additional absentee board members nominated by the party chair.
I second.
Okay. Any additional comment from the board or from the public? Not seeing any. None. Let's please read the roll.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Bankhart,
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So our next action item relates to recruiters and I believe the new agreement with our party chairs in regard to recruiters. We do have a resolution, I believe, for this item as well. So Molly, do you want to walk us through the rationale for this resolution?
Keep forgetting to turn this mic on and off. The resolution before you is basically a resolution to document what I believe is what I've been told is the ongoing process or procedure for recruiters. This came about because we were trying to fix the salary ordinance as it pertained to absentee board members. And it was noticed that recruiters were never noted in the salary ordinance. They were being paid as leads, but the salary ordinance is supposed, only leads should be paid out of the leads line. I had conversations with Mr. Ellis, who kind of updated me on what the process was pertaining to the individuals who recruit election day workers. I went back and I found that process was talked about on April 30th of 2015 at the election board meeting, and it became an agreement between the election board and, in essence, the party chairs. So this resolution is just trying to document the ongoing process. So my recommendation is that the election board consider it. I would recommend that that there's conversation with the party chairs, since it is in essence an agreement with the party chairs, and then that this could be voted on at the next election board meeting.
And you might want to point out that there is a clarification in the proposed resolution as it relates to the recruitment activity periods. You've added 30 days prior to election for presidential election years, whereas for the other elections, it is a 10-week period, just so folks know. I don't believe there's any other.
I have an issue just with the, other than the presidential election, in that the county election, you're recruiting the same amount of people to work because everyone is eligible. The same number of voters, which is every Monroe County voter, is eligible for the county election as well as the presidential election. The smaller election, obviously, you don't need as many workers and you're not recruiting as many workers, but the presidential and the county are the exact same number.
By smaller, you're referring to the years with municipal elections?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we should definitely take that into consideration, but I guess we will. Molly, will you be coordinating the communication with the party chairs then to make sure that we get their input, approval, or any other recommended changes to the policy to this resolution before we bring it back for a vote?
I can do that if the board wishes me to do so.
If the chairs want to send me their input, I'm happy to be a conduit as well. But it sounds like we're going to move this to a future meeting to finalize a vote on this resolution. Or, yeah, I guess memorializing the recruiter's agreement is the way to put it. Any other comments on this? Are we okay with that course of action?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, great. And let's move on to the amendment to the Monroe County Code 287. This is a code amendment that is actually to be considered by the Board of Commissioners, but we have an opportunity and I think a duty to have some input into what's being proposed. Molly, do you want to summarize the issue for the board?
So this is an amendment to Chapter 287, and originally I was planning on discussing it with the election board today, but I think that I need to discuss it with the commissioners prior, so I would ask that we table this item.
Okay. Can I get a motion to table this item?
Motion to table.
I'll second it if need be. Do we need to take a roll call on the motion to table?
Yes, and for clarity, this would be a motion to table to the May meeting, correct?
Yes.
May 2nd meeting of the election board? Okay, so I'm going to do a roll call on the motion to table to May 2nd. Board Member Bankhart.
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes.
Board Member Fernandez.
Yes. Now the next action item also relates to Chapter 287. Do we want to, this one seems like we probably ought to discuss as it,
This is the resolution.
or would you?
This is a resolution
Yeah.
of fixing election worker pay based on the current state or current version of Chapter 278. In essence, what Chapter 278 does is it sets ranges for the election workers for which the commissioners are responsible for setting, and then it directs the election board will pick a specific amount within that range. So this resolution currently reflects the current pay of election workers because it's within the range currently contained in Chapter 278. So if you wanted to go ahead and set or consider this resolution for approval, and then if the range gets amended, you could come back and amend this resolution, or you could table it to discuss after the amendments to Chapter 287 or 278 occur.
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, let's read the roll on the motion to table.
And for clarity, is this a motion to table to the May 2nd meeting?
Yes,
May 2nd.
I believe. Is that your intent, Nicole?
Yes.
Great.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Bankhart,
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes.
And that brings us to Council Resolution 2024-12.
This resolution.
And this is, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this resolution, basically, so, at the March 27th council meeting, the council passed Resolution 2024-12, which adjusted the absentee board worker pay. And in that, in that resolution of the council, they created 3 categories of election worker pay, or absentee workers, with absentee workers A making $20 an hour, absentee workers B making $25 an hour, and absentee workers C making $33 an hour. And the resolution requests that the election board categorize the absentee board positions into one of those categories. So this resolution contains a chart where I've put the board, the absentee board positions, but I have left the category blank, and so if the election board would like to fill in those categorizations and then consider this for approval, that would be my recommendation.
We do have category recommendations. Kylie, do you have those?
For the category. That's fine. So for all right, so for the category B, sorry, we'll start with C. So C for the $33, that was going to be the leads. Section B, $25 an hour, is the counters, couriers, travel board. And then A is clerks for early voting.
And just for clarity, the absentee counters and couriers would not fall within the council resolution because statutorily, the commissioners set the per diem for couriers and counters, not the council. So I think the three positions would be leads, travel board, and clerks.
Go ahead.
And Molly, that assumes that, yeah, that's a current state. I mean, that might be addressed as part of the NC code 287 discussion as well, right? For future action.
Correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. The code currently does not provide for absentee board counters and couriers as a category of election workers that commissioners set, but according to the statutes, that is the responsibility of the commissioners, not the council.
So they're going to change from the hourly to a daily rate.
I don't know if the absentee couriers and counters will become an hourly rate or remain at a daily rate. That would be something for the commissioners to consider.
But when we had the council meeting, they incorporated both of them as well when we were stating with them because they said that they were considered absentee board
The
members.
council meeting did not include couriers and counters.
Are there any comments or reactions to the proposed categories?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve Council Resolution 2024.
I make a motion to have the resolution of the Monroe County Election Board, resolution of fixing absentee worker hourly rates as presented by Ms. Turner King, with the absentee board clerk being in category A, absentee board leads category C, and absentee board travel board category B.
Second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion or any input from the public on this particular resolution? If not, let's call the roll.
Clerk Brown?
Can I say something?
I believe before I call roll, there's an individual indicating she has public comment on this resolution.
I had actually saved this for later, but I might as well just go ahead and put it in here now and then save us a little bit of time. While I was working last year, many times, and I'm just going to give my input just so that I've had my voice. I watched many absentee voter or workers not really performing jobs, not really doing the work. And I was making $15 an hour in my part-time position. happy to do the work, happy to serve. And taxpayers pay a lot of money for a lot of work that doesn't happen, and for people to sit around and lounge and laugh and talk and eat and just do whatever they want. I don't really see the necessity of raising wages. If there's an election worker that is sitting there and holding taxpayers hostage with financial and fiscal pay that's not necessary, I really believe that I saw with my own eyes people that weren't doing anything, that weren't performing, and they were already making enough money to do that. I'm sorry, I'm against any more wages being raised. I know that it's hard times, but it's not the taxpayer's responsibility to give people the lifestyle that they want, to pay them. And I don't believe that I would still serve. I would still be there for $15 an hour, happily serving. And I don't feel that it's right to hold taxpayers hostage financially and keep paying people to not really be working. I know what I saw. I watched it from my desk. I watched it every day. Hundreds and thousands of dollars taxpayers pay for people to just enjoy a sweet ride. That's all I have to say with that. That was part of my other part, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on this resolution? If not, I believe we had a motion and a second. Can we read the roll?
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Bankart,
Yes.
Clerk Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. So that brings us, I believe, to the last item under new business, which is just an update on nomination of election day poll workers. Is that yours, Kylie?
I guess I could speak to this. I just wanted to update the election board that the deadline for nominations for election board or for election day workers is approaching, and if the parties make their nominations by that date, then the election board should duly appoint thereafter.
I want to confirm on that if we have a certain amount of workers currently and we appoint them by the 19th, and then we have more follow in after that because we will, is that okay, or do we need to have all of them by that deadline?
I think you can do a staggered
Okay.
appointment.
Okay.
So, and then what happens, inevitably, we are going to have people drop out. And so like the night before the election, we could be scrambling to get people to fill poll worker positions. How are those people going to be appointed? I remember on election day calling recruiters and asking if we had anybody on a backup list because people have emergencies and they drop out and there's no opportunity to appoint those people in the 11th hour when we are trying to get polls open and make sure we start delivering things to different polling sites, and the board is going in different directions based on whatever the needs are on election day.
I can look at what happens in those scenarios and get back to the board. I can send a memo.
Okay. Any other comments regarding this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I believe we've concluded the business on the agenda for today.
I do have one comment about CFA 4 filings. So if you are a candidate in the upcoming election, your primary CFA 4 is due on April 19th at noon for reporting periods between January 1st, 24 and April 12th, 2024. This will be the same for PACs and party committees as well.
Thank Thank you. Okay, at this point, I believe we are at the end of the agenda. Do we need a motion to? Yes.
I believe there's an individual present in Nat Hill who's indicating they have public comment.
Okay, I believe we have 3 minutes of public comment.
It will be much briefer because I've already spoken about a couple things I was already going to speak about. It's Cheryl Langdon again. I just wanted to inform the election board members that I did attend the Lincoln dinner last Thursday. The information packet that I did provide at the election board meeting last month, I did give that a copy, the exact copy, to Bryant, the Republican chair, and to State Secretary Morales, and that way that they would be informed, and that I did ask for an investigation of things that occurred last year. I also informed them, and I do have a photo I just snapped that off this morning, and I've got a copy of it that shows the packets that I did give them because I gave them actually additional information. I do want to bring up one quick thing, and by the way, I will hand that in. Last month, there was talk about legislation that protects election workers. I have an issue with that because election workers should be protected, absolutely. I wish it had been there whenever I needed protection, but it seems like that voters aren't protected. You can look at SVRS and look at the system. I did not get to vote last year. I didn't have my voice heard because I felt that my safety that was in danger. I felt that my safety in particular was in danger and I could not go vote. And that's because of what I encountered working as a clerk at Election Central by election employees and election workers, co-workers, and supervisors. It took me 2 months just to even be able to stand here and to have the courage to speak up for myself. I do not intend to be bullied from being able to vote this time. I found my courage and I'm going to be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, let me just again apologize for some of the technical issues at the beginning of this meeting. Thank goodness I was able to connect via my phone. Connect my laptop, but I appreciate everyone's patience and how awkward this is to be trying to run a meeting from a remote location. If there's not any other comments from Nicole or Judith, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Actually, we have to do a roll call.
I don't think you need to for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, well, thank you. That's good. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And we'll look forward to working on some of these open issues as we move forward. And thanks again to everyone who's working so hard to ensure that we have a very fair and accurate election in the coming weeks. Thank you.